guys, welcome back to See Mindy Mom, and if you're new here, I'm so glad you found me. Welcome to my kitchen. Today I am sharing with you two family meals, two meals that I made for my family of 5 with ingredients that I purchased at Aldi for around $8 total. So basically these are $4 dinners. Stay tuned. I posted a video a few days ago that was just kind of a standard $5 dinner video. I've done many of these along with other extreme budget or budget cooking videos. I have several of them in a playlist. I will leave that linked in the description box below if you are new to my channel or if you are looking for something specific. The parameters of these challenges are different. Sometimes I have different budgets. Sometimes I'm making one meal. Sometimes I'm making 3. Sometimes I'm making a week's worth of meals. Sometimes I shop at different stores. And usually I'm trying to change it up, get creative, think outside the box. I had several people ask me if I could come up with something that does not involve beans. And so I thought, sure, let's give it a try. Now I do get lots of requests for like gluten-free versions of things or low-carb versions of things or dairy-free versions of things. I am very careful on my channel to make meals that fit our lifestyle as well. Yes, I want to be helpful and I want to give some ideas or at least a jumping off point for people when it comes to being economical in the kitchen. But I also have to be realistic about the kinds of foods that my family eats. And I also want to be careful not to advise people about nutrition. I kind of have my own personal nutritional standards that I'm trying to create in this balance of eating that I'm trying to create for my family. But leaving out the beans and coming out with something else, that's definitely something I think I can deliver. And I think my kids would thank me for it because they don't love beans. I mean, they'll eat them, but they'll probably like the meals that I'm making today even better than the one I made in that other video. Most of the content that I post on this channel does have to do with budget cooking, with being economical, and with being good stewards of the things that we have available to us. So if you like that kind of content, make sure that you are subscribed to my channel and hit that little bell for notifications so you know whenever a new video goes up. I do have plans for more of these videos in the coming weeks throughout December, throughout Vlogmas, and on into the new year when I know a lot of us will be looking to tighten up those budgets a little bit. Here is what I purchased from Aldi, and these are items that I'm pretty sure you can purchase at just about any grocery store, and they may not be the same prices at your grocery store as they are at mine, but hopefully they are among the least expensive items, relatively speaking, in your store. So I have one just standard bag. This is 12 ounces of mixed vegetables. If you wanted to use just peas and carrots instead, you absolutely could if you want to sub a different kind of veggies, but these were 75 cents at my Aldi. One 8-ounce block of mozzarella was $1.85. 1 pound of pork sausage was $1.89 at my Aldi. One of the reasons I like to use sausage, I've said this many times before, is because a little bit goes a long way because it's seasoned. So I'm actually going to use half a pound in each of the recipes that I'm making today. 1 can of condensed tomato soup, this is the Aldi brand, is 50 cents. 1 can of diced tomatoes, I like to buy the kind with basil, garlic, and oregano in it, and that was 64 cents at my Aldi. 1 container of cottage cheese, and this is a 24-ounce container, was $1.69. We love cottage cheese here. We eat it just like plain as a snack. My kids like it. I grew up eating it because my dad really liked it. So not only is it a great snack and just stands alone by itself, but it's really great in lots of different recipes and casseroles. I use it a lot, and I really think it's one of those protein sources that people might not know about or just forget about, because there's usually anywhere from 11 to 14 grams of protein per half cup serving. So we really like it. And then I bought one 1-pound package of pasta. Now my Aldi does carry 1-pound packages, usually of the penne and the rotini, and they're usually 79 cents. My Aldi yesterday when I went to shop for this video did not have these. I had one in the pantry and I thought about using it, but I'm going to use this instead because this is what I picked up since my Aldi was out of this and I wasn't sure I had a package in the pantry already, but you could just use 1 pound of any pasta if you want. But this is the Priano authentic Italian bronze cut pasta, 1 pound, and I got this kind, the Casarecce or Casarec. No, yeah, I think it's Casarecce. And one of the cool things about bronze cut pasta, I think a lot of people really like it because it has a tendency to kind of soak up the sauce maybe a little bit better. So we're going to use that, but you could just use 1 pound of whatever cut style of pasta you want for these, but probably like a medium cut pasta, not like a long thing like spaghetti or angel hair, and you'll see why. I'm actually starting this video around lunchtime because I am going to turn one of these into a lunch prep. If you watch my channel, you know that I like to freeze individual serving servings of things in little containers because my husband and I usually will eat lunch from or at home. And we eat leftovers a lot of times. We usually have stuff for sandwiches or little quick things that we can throw together. But sometimes when we don't have any of that, we can go to the freezer and pull out one of these meals that I've made. And it's also a great way to preserve leftovers from dinners that maybe we aren't going to get to eat up before they, go bad in the refrigerator. But I am out. My husband took the last ones that I had frozen yesterday, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to go ahead and make up a few meals that we can put in the freezer so that we can have them later on. And then one of these we can have for dinner. I'm going to keep the seasonings pretty simple for this. That's one of the great things about using sausage. It's already seasoned. It's got a lot of seasoning already. So I am going to use a little Italian seasoning. And I picked this one up at Aldi. It's 95 cents for a lot of their just basic spices. So if you are looking to build a spice cabinet, that's a great place to do it. And I think after garlic powder, chili powder, onion powder, and cinnamon, this is the next one that I would recommend adding to your spice cabinet because it's got a lot of different spices in it. So instead of buying all of these separately, you could start by just buying a jar of this, and then gradually you can add these to your spice cabinet. But I use Italian seasoning all the time. So I'm going to use a little bit of that, a little bit of garlic powder, and just a little bit of salt and pepper. And I also went through my little drawer or my little basket where I keep these things, and I save the little packets of seasonings that come from, restaurants or the pizza place if we ever do that. If they send them after we pick them up, we might as well keep some of it because it comes in handy occasionally. So I'm going to use a couple packets of crushed red pepper in one of those recipes, and I even found a few packets of grated Parmesan cheese to top my recipes with. Yay. I'm going to try something a little bit different today, and one of these recipes is going to be a sausage and veggie pasta with a white sauce that I am hoping to make from this cottage cheese. I'm actually going to take half of this cottage cheese, about a cup and a half of it, and I'm going to put it into my blender and pulse it a few times to kind of try to puree it a little bit. And then I'll add maybe just a little bit of the starchy pasta water to it as well, like maybe a quarter cup at a time until it's the consistency of like a cream. And that's what I'm going to add to this recipe to sort of give it that white sauce, creamy type flavor and texture. So we'll see how that turns out. If you do not have a blender, I think it's fine. You could just stir in half of this container, a cup and a half of cottage cheese, and it would be kind of like, a casserole consistency instead of like a pasta with a sauce type consistency. I am starting by browning up my sausage, and I am going to remove half of that to another pot for the other recipe as soon as it's done cooking. So we're only going to use half of the sausage in each recipe. So I'll cook that up and then I'll remove half of it to the other pot for the other recipe, and then we'll keep working on this recipe for the time being. And I also have some water coming to a boil on the stove to cook up half of my pasta for this first recipe. I'm only going to cook half of the pasta because I want to use the other half for the other recipe in a different way, so you'll see how in just a little bit. But I also did not overfill my pot with water because I kind of want the water to be starchy to help out with the sauce a little bit. So I probably have about 4 cups of water, and I put a little salt in there, and I'm bringing that to a boil, and then I will cook 8 ounces of my pasta. I was trying to decide if I wanted to give my mixed veggies a head start for this recipe, and I've decided that I do. So since these are steam in the bag, I'm going to toss them into the microwave for about half the recommended time. This one says 3.5 minutes, so I'll probably just put them in for about 90 seconds to give them a little bit of a head start because they're frozen. So I don't want them to bring down the temperature of my pan whenever I add them. I'm going to deglaze the pan with just a little bit of the pasta water, like maybe a quarter cup or so, since the pasta is cooking right next to me. So I've got my skillet kind of on low to medium-low heat here, and I'm gonna turn it up to medium just for a minute. And then I'm gonna toss in my mixed veggies, which I part cooked in the microwave. Teaspoon of garlic powder, just a little sprinkling of salt for the veggies, and black pepper. And I'm going to stir that for just a minute or two to kind of let the veggies finish cooking and get really tender. Okay, so my skillet is still on low to medium heat, and my veggies are pretty much done here. My pasta's done too, and I made up my little cottage cheese with the pasta water thing. And I'm just going to pour that right in here, and I'm going to add a little bit more salt and pepper and give that a stir and just bring it up basically to a very low simmer. I actually haven't drained my pasta yet either because I wasn't sure if I would want a little bit more of that starchy pasta water to thin out the sauce. We'll just see if we are going to need that before I drain the pasta to add into the sauce here. My skillet is not quite large enough to finish out this dish, so what I did was I drained the pasta and then I put it back in the pot that it cooked in, and then I poured the sauce mixture over the top of that. So that's what I have right here. And now I'm going to add half of my block of mozzarella cheese, which I already shredded up. By the way, my heat is off on the stove right now, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and just put it back on low so that all of these ingredients can combine together and reheat. And then I'll probably just let it sit. I'll turn the stove off. I will let it sit for about 5 minutes because that's gonna help it thicken it back up just a little bit. The sauce thinned out some, probably because the cottage cheese has, water in it, so it's gonna render some of that moisture, but that's okay. It's actually gonna work out perfectly because it will thicken upon standing. And then it'll be ready to serve. It smells amazing. Confession, you guys, I thought that I had pressed record just now of me trying this lunch that I made for myself, and I'm gonna freeze the rest of it in individual servings for later on. I thought that I had pressed the record button, but I did not. The other recipe is finishing up behind me. It's actually gonna be dinner tonight, which is fantastic. I'm making it ahead of time because I'm gonna be running the mom shuttle to and from swim several times tonight. But the good news is that this turned out great. I love the flavor of it. It is not super heavy. So I get the flavor of the cottage cheese and the seasonings that I used in it, and the little bit of sausage adds a really nice flavor also, but it's not super heavy like a really heavy pasta sauce would be. So I think it makes a really, really great lunch. And of course you can adjust the seasonings according to what you like. I just seasoned it the way I knew that we would like it, but this turned out really good. To get this other recipe going, I have the other half of my cooked sausage here in this big pot, and I have turned the heat on about medium to medium high. And to that, I'm going to add my can of diced tomatoes. And then I filled the can halfway up with water, and I'm putting that in. My can of tomato soup, 1 can of water, a teaspoon of Italian seasoning, a teaspoon of garlic powder, salt and pepper to taste, won't take much, and a dash of red pepper flake. I'm just using one of these packets from the restaurants. I'm stirring that all together now, and then I'm going to pour in the rest of my bag of pasta. So this is about 8 ounces of uncooked pasta. I'm gonna bring that up to a boil, and then I'm gonna reduce the heat to low, cover it, and let it simmer on low until the pasta is done cooking, probably about 10 to 12 minutes or so. I'm just making a little topping here for the skillet lasagna with the cottage cheese and about half of that block of mozzarella that I shredded up, 1/3 to half. I'm just gonna stir those together so that I can put a dollop of that on top of my bowl of skillet lasagna. All right, you guys, I hope that that was helpful, that it was encouraging, and that it gave you some ideas. That is always my goal for these kinds of videos. Maybe you have to make some substitutions or adjustments, or maybe this just gives you an idea, a jumping off point for something that you can do in your own kitchen. I'll be sure to check in again with another video very soon. Thanks for watching.